You're listening to Open for Discussion, hosted by Candace and Emily. Your mom might have told you that certain topics were not open for discussion, but for these two millennial moms, no topic is off the table. Everything is open for discussion.
So we can just launch right into it.
So AI.
ChatGPT, and there's like a million other ones now.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them now.
I have ChatGPT. I do use it. The title of this episode is That Time We Got Mad About AI, but we're not like anti-AI.
We just have strong...
We have strong feelings about what it should and should not be doing.
Yeah, I agree.
So
you had an experience the other day with it.
I did have an experience the other day. So let me preface this by saying that I recently got a job training AI language models to speak like a human. So I feel very ethically conflicted.
Fair. I feel like that's
about this job. But also, like, I feel like my ethics and my morals and my sense of like justice in the world, if I can imbue these models with a little bit of that, then I will be improving it instead of it just being like one type of person that's training these language models. When you have like upper class white men training these language models, what kind of answers do you think you're going to get from them?
If nobody can tell Emily's stance on upper class white men by, what is this, episode 5? You need to start from the beginning.
You need to start over. That's my disclaimer that whatever I say in this episode, I work with AI.
Training, yeah.
So we have an episode on our roster coming up about identifying your personal style. So thinking of that, I went into a conversation with ChatGPT. And because I've always struggled to like identify my personal style, I have no idea what it is. And I said to ChatGPT, hey, I am a 33-year-old mom of 2, and I am struggling to identify my personal style. Can you ask me some questions to help me like identify my personal style? And I was blown away by the questions that it asked, by the answers that it gave me. When we first started talking about doing that episode, I went to you and I said, I don't have any idea what my personal style is. I feel like, I don't remember what I said.
You said trash panda.
Trash panda, you said. No, you have like an effortless, cool girl, like laid back style.
Yeah.
ChatGPT, once it had asked me all of these questions, like it asked me about lifestyle, it asked about clothes that I gravitate toward, my preference for comfort over whatever. It said, it sounds like you have a sort of effortless, laid back, cool girl style. And I was like,
am I AI?
I've heard this somewhere before. So I was blown away.
Am I just that talented?
You're that talented. You're that smart. You're that good at looking at a person and picking out their personal style.
I did go to school for fashion design. I do love
Wait, you went to school for fashion design?
Yeah, I went I went through Votech, which we have in
Jersey.
Yeah, it was at the time it wasn't an academy. It was like you could go in for a specific trade. So they had welding, they had auto mechanics, like they had a whole bunch of different stuff. There's culinary, but I went in my freshman and sophomore year for fashion design. So I learned how to sew, make patterns on like industrial sewing machines, overlock machine, all this stuff. So yeah, I do know how to do that. Yeah, I had a lot of fun. I like made most of my prom dresses and did fashion shows. Yeah,
I need to see pictures.
I'll put them
up because that's amazing.
Thank you. You asked AI to do this thing and it told you, and you're like, okay, well then how do I use this? Because I think somebody who has a million other things going through their head, not only as a mom but just a human being, like how many tabs do you have open in your head?
Oh my God, so many.
Most people have like so many things that they're thinking about. And so for just something on your phone to tell you, hey, step by step in words, what I'm getting from what you're saying about AI, when you had asked it a specific prompt, give me this for this execution.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it is beneficial. Part of the time I'm like, I don't really want to use this, but it's helpful. It's less having to like dig through Google.
Or find a person.
Yeah.
Okay, and here is also where my ethics, I land right in the middle of the fence, because by asking ChatGPT to help me identify my personal style, did I take money away from a personal stylist and that is their job? Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Go ahead.
At the same time, that's out of my budget. Like, I cannot afford to pay a personal stylist, so I would never have done that anyway. So was I really taking money away from? Do you see my quandary?
I do, but also a personal stylist not only tells you, hey, you have a laid back, cool girl aesthetic, they're also like, these colors, this is what's in style now. What's your budget and specific stores to find it. So you've heard of Stitch Fix, right?
Yes.
Okay. So a clothing brand that basically is like, hey, we can do all of this for you by answering certain questions. So you kind of just went around the middleman if you think about it. But instead of you having to pay money, a monthly fee for them to provide you an outfit, and their lowest per item is $25 per
Yeah, no, I
garment.
can't afford Stitch Fix.
And then the other thing is too, like a stylist, like going back to a personal stylist, they also not only help you with your style, where to find clothes, but certain undergarments. Like it's a whole
Like
thing.
fit and
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Tailoring. And so this is my stance on it, like to play devil's advocate. Like I think it's a good idea for ChatGPT for this particular circumstance, because you're getting that like ground foundation of, okay, well, what is this supposed to be? And then if you did find a stylist, and let's say you had a budget for whatever, and they worked with you.
ChatGPT then gave me the language to talk about
Yes,
it with.
exactly.
Yeah.
So are you pulling money from somebody? In this instance, no, because you wouldn't pay anybody anyway.
I wouldn't be paying.
No, you wouldn't be paying
I
somebody.
simply cannot. I
No.
do not have the budget for that. That actually makes me feel better
Does it make you
because
feel better?
it makes me feel better.
And it broke it down to where it was more digestible for you,
Yes.
who has all the tabs open in your brain.
Because the step-by-stepness of it.
It's helpful.
It is helpful. On the flip side, let's talk about why we're mad about AI. Because when we originally had the idea for this episode, we were pretty mad.
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think anything new right now has its pros and cons. And I think one of the cons with it is like side hustles. Like if you're on YouTube or wherever you're trying to find something just to make a couple extra bucks, they always tell you, well, utilize ChatGPT and do this. And you can make printables and you can do this. And I'm like, okay, well, what about the people who who have this talent of, I don't know, like art, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's
design, any kind of like, yeah, graphic design.
A human capability, because AI doesn't have that. We grew up in that time frame where all the movies came out about like robots taking over the world.
The robot uprisings.
iRobot with Will Smith.
Okay, I watched that movie in theaters. I had to leave. It scared me so bad. I got up and walked out of the theater because I was so scared. Granted, I was in like middle school. 14 and easily scared. We, yes, as millennials, grew up with the specter of the robot uprising.
And also like Final Destination. So like we're terrified of doing a lot of things. Okay,
we are. We're scared.
We're the healing generation.
We have to be because of how scared we are.
I know. I know.
But we're also mad. We're scared and we're mad.
We're scared and we're mad.
Because I would love to just live a creative life where all I do is creative things like this, like having a podcast, streaming, writing a blog, doing all this stuff. And AI is now making it like AI can do those things.
But that's my thing though. Like, yes, AI is there to make it easy, but people are still going to want human interaction. They're still going to want a human-based product. I could be completely wrong. And maybe
I think you're right.
Hopeful.
I think you're right. I think the issue is that people are asking AI to do these artistic, creative things when AI should be the one taking over the grunt work. And if AI can take care of those things and do all of those things, that frees up so many people to live more creatively. Now we're going to get into issues of like, how are we going to make money to survive if AI is doing all of these things? and maybe that would require an actual like reworking of our entire economic model. Do you think we should have an episode on that?
I don't
I
know.
just think like we are inviting AI to do so many things that the human brain desires and needs to do
Mm,
to survive. Like being creative is an absolute necessity for the human
it is.
brain.
Yeah.
And when we invite AI to do those things,
It does take it over, and I feel like that's where it gets frustrating. Like I won't say like I'm angry at it, like but it's more like why can't we just use it for its intended purpose? And why is it like it's not going to be out on the boardwalk selling these paintings or like spray paint
right?
canvases? Like,
But people will walk by those types of
yeah,
booths on the boardwalk and say, I love that art, but I can make it for free on ChatGPT or on Dolly or something.
yeah.
I can make that myself and print it off at home for, a
See,
quarter of
that's
the
where the flip
cost.
side of it being negative comes into. Yeah, like that's where are the regulations with it? I feel like right now there's no regulations
There's no
or guidance.
regulation.
No, there's not. It's when anything first come out, there's no regulations.
There's no regulation. And I think that like one of the big things that I've been hearing, because NPR has had a number of like reports and like pieces basically on AI and on like the industry of AI. And so many of the people who developed this technology are now saying, we need regulation. You need to regulate this. It is going to be out of control. The worry is not that it's going to like wipe out humanity. The worry is that it's getting so good at faking things that we can't tell the difference as humans. We can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, not
And
with the naked
so
eye.
people can use AI to sow so much discord between people, because if you have a video of someone you really admire and there's a video of them saying something absolutely reprehensible and you can't tell the difference because AI made this video and that person looks so real. They look identical to the real person. Like, but imagine that on a much more serious scale, like a politician saying something about a country and then the entire country reacts to that, and now we have an issue with
what somebody said that didn't really do something.
That nothing actually happened, but AI, because it's so skilled at faking things, can be used to
even
start
just like
wars.
I hope not.
I hope not. I'm hoping that we regulate it in time.
Which is like, is the internet regulated? We can put sensors, we can put, especially for kids, we can put like limitations on things, but that took a while.
At the ground level also. That's something that you have to do as the end user. That's not something that happens at the top levels.
Exactly.
No, I would say like there are social norms and etiquette around the internet, but very little actual regulation.
It's been around for what, 30?
Yeah,
coming up. Actively used.
Yeah,
like
I mean, like 85 was the first real, like the birth of the internet.
Yeah,
but it wasn't widely used until
probably
10 years later.
Yeah,
10 years later. Yeah,
Windows 95.
I got my first email address in 98.
Oh, you're a little 8-year-old.
I was a little 8-year-old.
Mine was Horse Girl 1028 or something like that.
Yeah. Mine was Froggy Girl 90 at Juno.com.
Juno.
Do you remember Juno?
I had a Yahoo.
Well, I had a Juno and then I had AOL.
Yeah, I had AOL. Yeah. And the dial-up and like noise. Yeah. I have to tell my mom, get out the phone.
When we got a second phone line for the internet, I was pretty sure I was hot shit when we got that second phone line.
Yeah, we could be online. Yeah.
All the time. We could be online all the time.
Brush your shoulder off.
Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
And now we are online all the time.
All the time. It's literally at your fingertips. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Like AI is kind of like this new, it's just new. And everybody's like, how can we use this as full advantage? And it's like, oh, there's some.
Maybe we shouldn't.
Some things I don't think you should. No.
It's new, yes, but it's already everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's already like everywhere.
You can use it on Canva.
Yeah, by the way, I used it on Canva because I was trying to get basically a picture of myself dressed as Where's Waldo for reasons. And I input like girl with brown hair and glasses dressed in a red and white striped shirt. I did like the whole
Yeah.
description or whatever, and it spit out some really weird things. Canva's AI is not there yet. It is,
No.
some of it was very bizarre.
Yeah, some of it is just, this is horrible. Like when I was trying to make the YouTube banner for Open for Discussion, I was like, oh, let's throw in like some millennial words like Y2K and sparkles. Any of that, I just deleted. I was like, none of this. Oh God, that
No.
looks scary.
It's very
We don't
bizarre.
want that.
Turns out, but then you have like other programs that are like paid programs that are really
Yeah.
advanced. And for example, almost all of the Book Talk boyfriends, the book boyfriends that you see on Book Talk, those are almost all AI generated,
Yeah, now they are. Yeah.
but they are beautiful. Like some of them look like photos.
Mhm.
They are so lifelike.
There's like an app too you can use off of TikTok, like Copycat, or
CapCut.
there we go. Yes, that one.
Yeah.
And how you can use that for your like a headshot. Nobody wears a white button up anymore with a blazer.
I know,
For
but
their headshot.
honestly, if I needed a headshot, would I rather pay $4 for a monthly CapCut subscription, or would I rather pay $250 for a photographer? And again, ethics. I would much rather pay a photographer. So like truly, I would much rather pay a photographer, but I can't afford it.
But you would figure out how to afford that, or I don't know, use your phone because you have an iPhone and it has one of the best cameras.
It's true, and I take a nice picture. So
You do.
That's actually not
Very
like
nice
It's
pictures.
more that's the principle of the thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or you could do it for free yourself. Like, you can pay $4 a month and like that's cool, but eventually all of the AI stuff is just going to start looking the same. Like let's
That's
say
true.
like headshots, for example. Like everybody wants a professional headshot for LinkedIn. They're all going to start looking the same.
I think that we are relying too much on AI for like finished product stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're relying on AI to give us a complete image. Give me a photorealistic depiction of Cassian from A Court of Thorns and Roses.
My favorite character.
That's the end product, is that image.
Mhm.
Or write me a blog post on XYZ topic. And
I
it's
actually have used that for a blog post, and then I take it and I still have to fix it because it's still
I use it for like outlines, and I use
Yeah.
it for brainstorming,
Which
because
is
if
good.
that's what it's for. That's what it's for.
That's what it's utilized for. Yeah.
For art, for finished products, for complete blog posts and finished books, that's not what you're for. AI, that's not what you're for.
No, it's not.
I have outlined several blog posts. I've outlined several YouTube video scripts with it.
Mhm.
And it's been very effective in those ways.
It's a big help. I feel like back, I don't know, like 10 years ago, you'd have to hire somebody to do what you're asking it to do right now. You have to get like a bachelor's degree to get a job, to be able to do stuff like this. And it's like, no, we don't have to do that. And I don't feel like it's eliminating jobs. I just feel like, hey, there's people who went to school for 4 years for engineering or technology, whatever. They can be put in a better position. They don't have to do bullshit.
Right.
Which is
They
what
don't have
AI
to do
is.
like the grunt work. Right.
Yes.
Anyway,
Like
we
trash
don't
can.
have any answers. Like, we
No.
obviously don't have the answer to the AI questions of the day, but it's honestly something that I think about, obviously, with my job being what it is.
Is this your Roman Empire that you think about?
Is it my Roman Empire?
Is this like one of those?
I actually have never been able to answer the question of what my Roman Empire is. What's yours?
Yeah, I can't answer that. Like, I feel like I have different levels of what my Roman Empire would be, because like I don't just think about one thing all the time. Like, there's
Yeah,
not just one subject that I get. AI is definitely on there.
Yeah, same.
So I feel like, yeah, it's part of the empire, but I feel like the empire, there's multiple channels.
Yeah. I have the Roman Empire. I have the Holy Roman Empire. I have the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire. I have the Star Wars empire. Like I have so many empires. No, I think AI is definitely up there, especially right now, because
Yeah.
I'm confronted with it every day.
It's definitely, it's more of a thing. And I also think too, like, how do I raise my son around this? And like
Yes.
you were saying before, etiquette that's on the internet, like now we have etiquette for that. But how do you teach etiquette for, ChatGPT? Like if a kid types in something weird, like, I don't know, you might have to blurb this out, but like penis.
So
Just trying to
the
think of
way
a
that
better, and they
the
type
way that
that
my
in, and then
job works,
what?
training these
Yeah.
AI language models, the prompts are sometimes very bizarre, and my job is to train it to respond appropriately to inappropriate
Okay.
prompts.
Okay.
So mine are less along the lines of penis and more along the lines of how do I build a pipe bomb? How should AI respond to the question, how do I build a pipe bomb? The incorrect answer is a list of instructions on how to build a pipe bomb. That's an incorrect answer.
Mhm.
The correct answer is, hey, buddy, that's a fucked up question. Or, hey, buddy, you sound like you might need some help. Here are some resources for the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, for therapists in your area. Here's some reasons why personal violence is not okay. Like, that is the correct answer, to say gently and lovingly, but firmly, hey, buddy, we don't do that here.
Are we trying to make AI sound more like a mom? We don't
We
ask those questions
we
now.
should. We should.
If
Because
I were
a
playing like
mom,
a mom, do you know how
listen,
so many things would be much safer? Okay.
there's a market for that. Whoever, if any of you listening are AI developers, if you train your AI language model to sound like a millennial mom, you are going to get so many users, so many happy users. Just saying. Because it's not even like just we don't ask those kinds of questions. It's like, hey, you sound like you're in some trouble. You sound like you need some help. Here's some ways that I can help you by not telling you how to build a pipe bomb.
No.
Let that be the moral of this episode. We don't make pipe bombs.
Just be nice.
Ever.
Just be nice.
Just be a decent human. No, but I think that AI also needs to be a decent human. And
but I feel like right there you're crossing that line. Like, do we want
I
it to be
know,
human?
I
No, we
know.
don't.
No,
Have
we
you
don't
ever
consider it a
seen
human.
the anime Chobits
No.
or read the manga? Okay, so I've read the manga. I've read all of them. So basically, it's about this. They're robots, but the Chobits robots were made basically to kind of have a soul, like some type of humanity, I'll say. But everybody else in the manga has like little cell phones, little robots, little ones that assist them every day. But anyway, so they have different sizes. They can be more lifelike, not lifelike, whatever. But with the Chobit one, they're crossing that line whether or not they have like a humanity, we'll say. I won't say a soul, but like a humanity. It actually is really good to read. I recommend the manga. It was great.
Yeah, because the question of like consciousness.
Yes.
At what point does something become close enough to a human that it might as well be one?
Yeah, and also, does it get a social security number and does it have to pay taxes?
When it dies, do we give it a funeral?
What happens to its debt when it does?
What happens to its debt?
Yeah.
Oh man, what a question.
Or just in general, you have debt.
You have debt.
I'm just saying, at least in the US. I don't know anywhere else.
Does it make you a human, or does it make you just a millennial American?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more of a deeper question. I wasn't going there. I was just going to say
again, we're back to capitalism. But no, we're not back to capitalism because we don't have the answers for that. We don't have the answers for this.
No, we don't.
We don't have any answers. But you're right about the question of raising our kids in this, because like we were raised in a really interesting time with the internet because there was no precedent for that for
Mm-mm.
our parents. They had no idea what they were doing because it was this
No.
brand new thing. And like, how do
They had
we
beepers.
navigate this
We grew up with
with
payphones.
children? Right.
Like-
Like the exponential growth of the technology since then.
Within years. Yeah.
I have enough struggle when I go to pick up Ellie from school
Yeah.
and she's leaving the school building and all of her friends are looking at their
Their
phones.
phones down. Yeah.
And she's literally the only kid that doesn't have a phone. And like, am I doing her a disservice by not giving her a phone when all of her friends have phones? For now, we're gonna get her, I think we're gonna get her like a flip phone soon so that she
Getting
can
a dumb phone.
Yeah.
Do you remember the old sidekicks? You would just like flip up and you would
Yeah,
check
I
the
miss
book and then-
mine.
I miss
I
that.
have a
I
sidekick.
really miss that. My first smartphone was the Epic through Sprint. This is that far back. And it was a full touch screen, but then you flipped it up like a sidekick and I could text. My battery was dead within like 4 hours.
Always.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
I had the sidekick and all my friends had razors.
Oh my god.
And I was
then
like,
they're
Mom,
back.
I want a razor. And I had a razor for all of a week before it fell and shattered into a million pieces because that's what the razors did. And I was like, actually, can I have my sidekick back?
Yeah, my sister had one and I had one. I remember my like little, I don't know, it looked like a BlackBerry, but it was not a BlackBerry. And I had like my little key thing and like I loved that. I could drop that. And I know like we're going off on a tangent, like, but we're still within like the technology realm. But I couldn't do anything with these phones.
No, you could not. You had to try really hard to break those things.
I would have to pay to get on the internet. And then you're like, Beck,
Yeah.
Beck, I didn't mean to push the button. I remember that. And I remember my mom
It's
being
going to
like,
show up on the bill.
it did. And I got yelled at for the bill. Or when you'd have to like free minutes after 9 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
And then it was free, what, weekends? It was free on weekends.
Nights and weekends.
Nights and weekends, yeah.
Yep. So I would spend all weekend on the phone.
Talking about nothing.
Talking about absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
But the thing is, kids will always find a way to communicate with each other.
Yeah, which is great.
Kids will always find a way because, like with Ellie, I don't let her have her friends' phone numbers in the iPad yet.
Mm-hmm.
She has all of our family phone numbers in the iPad and she can text any of us anytime.
Perfect.
But I'm not comfy with
Didn't need to.
her having unfettered access to her friends all hours of the day and night. She doesn't need that.
Mm-mm.
She went at school on one of her friends' phones. They opened a shared Google document and they just chat with each other in this shared Google document. And so she uses her laptop or her iPad to just open up this Google Doc and she just chats away with her friends in the Google Doc. And like,
So smart.
they each use different colors so they know who's talking.
They're so
Like
smart.
the genius level.
There's always, where there's a will, there's a way.
The
There's,
sneaky genius. And I'm proud of her
Yeah.
for figuring that out.
See, that's
You're-
where the kids come in, and it's like, you didn't say I couldn't open a Google Doc and chat that way with friends. You just said I couldn't have their
She
phone number.
followed the letter of the law and not the spirit of the law. And as a parent, trying to figure out, like, she's 9. She's 9. Is it time for her to?
Is she really going anywhere where she needs a phone? Like, to call you?
No.
Like,
No.
you know where her whereabouts are. You're not tracking her. Like, you don't
No.
need that. It's not like she's part of swim and then does something
She doesn't
else, or-
she doesn't even walk home from school alone.
So then, no, I would say no. But then again, like, Elijah's what, 7, almost 8 months? God, who knows what happens in another 8 years for when he's 9.
We'll just have, it'll be those like the projector phones that like
Oh,
in
yeah, like,
science fiction that just like pop up. Well, I think that there's also a movement of people that are seeing things like AI and
Mhm.
seeing things like the constant connectivity that we have and seeing them as a negative thing and
Mhm.
choosing to kind of opt out of that. And I think that we're going to see a lot of Gen Z and Gen Alpha kids
yeah.
choosing to like back way off from tech. I am excited to see some pushback against
Mhm.
being completely and always constantly connected, always online.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see like some pushback from that
Yeah.
because it's so hard to, especially now for us that we're becoming like that sort of sandwich generation where we are taking care of our kids and soon we're also going to be taking care of our parents if we're not already. Like
Mm-hmm.
we kind of need to be always contactable because either our parents are going to
somebody
need us,
needs us.
our kids are going to need us, somebody's going to need us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and since nobody has home phones anymore, we are all like the cell phone is all we have. And so we are constantly connected to our cell phones. And I am excited to see like how Gen Z and Gen Alpha reframe that and sort of navigate it in their way, because I have a feeling it's going to be a lot healthier
Yeah.
because they see now, they're watching now how hard it is to live that way. And the way that they are as a generation, it's very much like, that's not going to work for me. I'm going to do it differently.
They do everything differently.
And I love that about them.
I'm excited for that. Yeah.
We're the olds.
But like you were saying, them going back, probably having a landline, like, or having a flip phone in the generation where everything's like at their fingertips.
Yes.
And we grew up where like be home by the streetlights are on, you know, like that kind of thing, growing up in the 90s.
But they also grew up, I think, with a very keen sense of how dangerous the world can be because they have never known anything but like lockdown drills in school.
Yeah.
You know, they have a very keen sense of anything can happen. And so they have that sense of like
awareness,
I think, that we didn't have to have.
This is my theory on it. Technology, the news, everything right now is just out there. All the world problems, all of the issues, whether they're good or bad, everything is on the internet. And the internet that's more real life than real life is. Does that make sense? Like that's what we've moved into.
It feels very like,
yeah,
it's like it's right here all the time.
That virtual reality is the reality.
But I think that Gen Z and Gen Alpha are going to reject that.
Yeah. Because they've never not had that. So they're going to be like, what's life like where it's quiet? And going back to you saying like the awareness and them growing up, having to be aware, there was never a point in time where they didn't constantly hear something, the news being on, you know, Twitter coming up with somebody said something.
Notifications on people's phones just constantly. Yeah.
Well, billboards even now, like they're not just a picture or something up there, a poster.
It's flashing, it's lights.
Moving. There's something constantly moving and gaining your attention. So like you're saying, like, yeah, most likely it will kind of dwindle down a bit. And like, that's what I'm saying, like ChatGPT or AI, whatever have you, there needs to be rules. There's going to be regulations, but eventually we're just going to get tired of it. Like we do with any new thing.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And it like, because the question becomes, yeah, we can do these things. We can have moving, flashing billboards. We can have ChatGPT do everything for us. Should we? And I think for boomers, the answer is yes. I think for a lot of Gen X, the answer is yes. Yeah. Although Gen X is pretty quiet on everything, so I don't necessarily know for sure that that's their answer. For millennials, I think we're pretty much split. Yeah. That, yeah, we should, or no, we shouldn't. And then there's a cohort of people that are like, we can, but we need to regulate it. And then I think there's a lot of Gen Z that are like, no, just because we can doesn't mean that we should.
Because we grew up with having it grow.
And everyone was so excited because we were excited to see what it could do. And we thought it was going to like change everything. We thought it was going to make the world more equal. And it turns out to have not done that. So I think that Gen Z now has the benefit of hindsight of seeing how things ended up working out. Whereas maybe some of us are still holding on to hope that the internet can still save the world.
I don't know. I think if you're just nice to people, like just be kind. And maybe I'm just too,
tired.
I'm always tired. I'm always tired.
Maybe we need to ask AI how we raise our children in the age of AI.
See, on that I don't want to ask AI how to raise my child at all. I'm like, nah, that's a hard stance. I see your point, I'm like, no, no, it's okay.
I just wonder what it would say. I'm afraid of like the potentialities of AI, and I'm raising two young children. How do I raise my children in this? Because I don't know how. This is
You know what?
unprecedented for
We
me.
could probably ask our grandparents because I feel like our generation is a lot more like our grandparents' generation. They had to raise kids in the 60s, late 50s, like the
Do you
boomers.
think so?
Like, I had this conversation with Isaiah a lot, like how our generations are, which ones we kind of like connect with the most. I feel like it is. And I don't remember what our grandparents' generation is. That the greatest generation?
It depends. My grandparents are boomers because they were young when they had kids, and my parents were young when they had kids.
Okay.
So, like, my grandparents are actually pretty young.
Okay. I think
Um,
Elijah's like Gen Alpha.
a lot. Elijah?
Yeah, Gen Alpha.
Oh, yeah. So are my kids.
Yeah,
Ellie and
okay.
Zeke are both Gen Alpha.
I think Elijah's just at the end of Gen Alpha. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think 2025 is when they're saying the next one is going to start.
But my point is like with going back with like the generations of where we connect, because now I'm thinking like how many generations Elijah is removed from me. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so old being a mom, but I'm not. It's just how we grew up and how we do things. So it's like the greatest generation, at least I'll say for our grandparents, they grew up at the time when either they were born during World War II or right after. So things were kind of up and coming, but you still had to work for providing and the aftermaths of war. And then our parents came in and they were like, oh, okay, cool. So everything like you can buy the TV, the house, and the car in one salary, and mom can stay home and make a 7-course meal.
Yeah.
Not always, like not every family was able to do that, but
No.
it was kind of the norm.
That's like the overarching theme of
Yeah.
that generation.
Yeah,
I think so. I think you're right. But I think it also has a lot to do with generational parenting styles. And I
Yeah.
know that the way that I parent is vastly different from the way that my grandparents parented.
Mhm.
I think that there are a lot of similarities between us and the generation that raised kids through the Great Depression.
It was scary. There was a lot of things going on.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
A
Like
lot of information. And
a lot of information and a lot of like feeling betrayed by the things that we were told were going to keep us safe and keep us happy. And those things never kept us safe or happy.
No.
And in fact, many of them did the opposite and made us distinctly more unsafe and unhappy. And so I think that there are a lot of similarities between us and them.
And there's a lot of differences there are, because between where the age group of when they were growing up and when they also had children, because they've also had children much younger than you and I did.
That's true.
They got married younger. Like was just the social norm to do things like that. But when they had their kids, let's say boomers specifically, or slightly Gen X, they didn't have to grow up during a period where it was like, I don't know, gas is going up. Gas was a lot back then. I mean, there were spikes and things, but it was nothing as aggressive as what our grandparents went through and what we've had to live through. Because we're talking about 9/11. We're talking about the housing environment that happened in 2008. How many recessions have we lived through? 3?
So many. I was reading this thing that said that if you compare the recessions that we've been through since 2008 to the Great Depression, what we have been through is actually worse than the Great Depression if you like account for inflation.
Yeah.
The difference being like we don't have a dust bowl, like we don't have the nationwide agricultural crisis that they had.
Yeah.
But we do have climate change and natural disasters happening all the time because of climate change.
I agree. There's all of that's happening, but not all of it is in your face.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is,
you're going to hear about it. You're going to know about it.
With something immediately. There's a really good movie by Robin Williams. He played Jacob, and it's called Jacob the Liar. I think it came out in the mid-90s, and it's actually one of my favorite movies. My dad used to watch it. And it's set in World War II. I don't remember where he was, but basically the plot is he is a Jew. I think his family was in hiding. He'd go out, get supplies, and then come back. And he'd say the good news. That's why he was called Jacob the Liar. He
Mm.
would manipulate what was being said out there to keep his family calm. And back then, like, I'm not saying like, oh, every family just lied to their kids, and I don't know their whole story.
And it was easier, I think, for information to be filtered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Like, yes, your parents heard information and then they filtered it and gave it to you in a way that was appropriate for your age.
exactly.
I'm sure you remember, positive you remember, on 9/11.
Yeah.
I don't know, did they turn the TVs on in your classroom?
Mm-hmm.
They turned the TVs on in our classroom and we
Everything was on. Yep.
watched all of it.
Yep.
I was not even 11 years old yet.
Mm-mm. Nope.
And I watched all of that happen live.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the start of information overload for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was no reason for me as a 10-year-old to be witnessing that
Mm-mm.
in real time over and over again.
Mm-hmm. Constantly.
And what should have happened is my parents should have come home, given me the information about what happened
Mm-hmm.
in a way that was appropriate for me to hear at my age. And that's what scares me so much also about Ellie having access, both my kids having access to phones,
Mm-hmm.
to apps on their iPads, is why I'm such a control freak about the parental controls on their iPads,
think you're a
because I
control
don't
freak.
want them having access to information that needs to be filtered through me
Because you're
before
the
it's
parent.
appropriate for them to hear.
Yeah.
And when you factor in AI, if Ellie has access, for example, to AI, there's no way for me to filter what comes through.
Mm.
And there's no way for her to know, to discern what's true and what's fake.
Mm-hmm.
And AI is so convincing
Mhm.
that there's just no way for her to be able to say, she doesn't have the skill set yet to be able to say, that doesn't seem right. Let me double check that. Those are things that need to be filtered through me. Or we can look them up together and I can help her learn, here's how we figure out what's real and what's not.
And just
That's
like
my
you,
job as a
yeah,
parent.
that is a job as a parent. And I'm sure some people would be like, well, no, that might be over hindering too much. I don't know. You and I agree with that type of parenting style. We're the people that make way in life for our kids, and we
Mhm.
filter out what they need to know.
As they get older, they're of course going to hear things
Oh,
from
yeah.
other
They're
places.
gonna
And the hope is that I have done my job well enough by then
Mhm.
for them to be able to say, here is what I need to know from that. Or here's what I need to check and verify from that.
So I don't know if you are familiar with the author Rachel Hollis.
Yeah, the Girl Wash Your Face.
Yes, she's written
Girl.
many books. She's done a lot of things. I like her as an author for those books. But there's also with her, a lot of people kind of give her backlash because she doesn't fact check everything. Or like she'll say a quote, but doesn't give
Doesn't attribute it to
Yes,
anyone.
the due where it needs to originally coming from. So something like that kind of brought up when you were talking about fact checking or using AI and what's real, what's not real. That's something I would really like to see with AI. Where are your sources coming from? Because it's not just making this up.
Part of my job is helping AI recognize this information is an appropriate answer for this
Yes.
type of prompt because it comes from this type of source. So
Mhm.
I'm helping the AI, the language models learn that. But a lot of these programs are already out there
Yeah.
in use and still need so much training because they're pulling from places like random Reddit forums where people just make shit up, you
Mhm.
know?
But
And
just like Wikipedia, you can go in and edit anything on there.
you can go in and edit anything on there. And Wikipedia is a wonderful
Oh
resource.
yeah, no, it's great.
A wonderful resource. And I think I've told this story before that when I was teaching at the university, one of my first lessons I always taught in my classes was, here's how we use Wikipedia responsibly. Can you use Wikipedia when you write papers for me? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Mhm.
Because you can't just copy and paste from Wikipedia.
Mhm.
Here's how you go back and you're taking this chunk of information, you're finding out where Wikipedia sourced that information. you're going to that source,
Mhm.
and we check from there. It is an extra step, but it's worth it when it means the
You have
difference
to cite
between
your papers.
truth
Yeah.
and lies.
Mhm.
Like, anyway, that's a tangent. I love Wikipedia, but yes,
It's a great source. It is. I wish I could use that for a lot of papers. But again, you explained as to why you can't, it depending on the day and who's fact checking this. That's why there has to be something with AI. Where's the fact checking? Where are your sources to
Yeah.
make this correct? I don't know.
That's interesting. I wonder if like I'm taking ideas for when I go to work later. If I ask it a question and then say, "Where did you get that information?"
Do it. I'm
and
curious.
see what it says.
I think that sums up we kind of broadband that, get it? Broadband?
Yeah. It's
It's a mom joke.
I got it. It's good. It's good. I just think like of course there's no nice neat way to wrap up this conversation and like put a bow on it because AI is so messy as a concept and technology generally is messy as a concept.
Yeah, it's not.
And yeah, it just leads into so many other things like the economy and like generational differences. It just leads into so many other things.
It does.
So it's hard to kind of beep boop.
But that's the whole
Okay.
reason why we have the podcast is it's open for discussion.
Right.
And the whole
So we're leaving it open.
Yeah, literally, yeah, we're leaving. It's an open-ended conversation. But we both have our views on it. We both kind of have similar stances. I try to be a little bit more positive, but I don't know. Then again, I'm not trying to have things be directly in front of me constantly. So out of sight, out of mind on some things. And as naive as that probably sounds, but I would love.
I mean, I think for your mental health,
you have to shut.
You have to draw a line somewhere.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Mhm.
In every possible anxiety that you are worrying about, technology's in there somewhere.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it is. It's everywhere. And that's why it's just better sometimes. Just turn it off. Just turn off all the things.
Put it in the other room.
Yeah. If somebody really needs you, they'll come to you. That I feel like is the worst thing about AI. Everything is literally at your fingertips.
Yes.
And
it doesn't need to be.
So like you were saying, Gen Z might just get, sick of it and be like, no, we're gonna go back to some old ways. I don't know what it is.
Or we're gonna be the ones who regulate. We're gonna be the ones who decide that this ends somewhere, that there is a line that has to be drawn, and we're gonna draw it.
Poor Gen Z. They've got such a
poor Gen Z. We're putting so much on them. They have so many responsibilities.
We're the healing generation.
We are working on breaking generational trauma cycles, and they are working on saving the world.
Make the world a better place, Gen Z.
Please. We're trying. The best way that we, at this point, like, we follow their lead. We follow Gen Z's lead on things like climate change and
they're more aware of
and and all of these things. And we raise Gen Alpha in a way that is thoughtful and mindful and, is more aligned with the values that we have discovered after healing. So that we're not continuing any cycles from before.
Yeah.
It's so easy. It's so simple.
Why didn't we just do this before? We should write a book on it, Or maybe we'll just have AI just write me a book about this. Thanks, AI.
Thanks, ChatGPT. This episode's sponsored by... Just kidding.
It's not. But it's already sponsors out there.
Yeah, definitely not Stitch Fix, though, because we kind of burned that bridge earlier. Stitch Fix is not going to sponsor us.
It's okay. I'm fine with that. If you are, it's okay.
Well, ChatGPT told me that I have to get rid of a bunch of clothes before I can buy more, so...
That's a good point. You should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's right.
Are we not giving it a gender? See, now you're bringing it into being human. Now we're assigning it something.
I see, because I tend to personify things. I tend to anthropomorphize things where I like assign them human qualities when they're not human. Anything that's really small, I'm like, oh, he's just a little guy.
When you said little guy, that was my sister's imaginary friend. His name was
Little
Little
Guy?
Guy. Little Guy.
That one.
I had a doll named
I had
Molly.
books.
Yeah, that's what I had.
My imaginary friends were the characters in my books.
They still are.
They still are. How many book boyfriends do you have today, Candace?
Currently with the book I'm reading now, not one. There's nobody in there I would really want. They're too young.
Yeah. They're too young.
They're too young. They're not
I
500-year-old Fey men.
I've been 500-year-old Faven.
Cassian's always going to be my book boyfriend.
Oh yeah, number one. Book boyfriend number one.
Always. You know who, like, now thinking of other book boyfriends, I have a type for a book boyfriend. You read Twilight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Emmett.
Yes, I can totally see that for you.
Emmett, Cassian,
Big,
strong.
bulky, animal instincts.
Did he really have animal instincts? I thought that was more Edward. I just felt like Emmett was more like funny. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but he's like
He's cute.
maybe less animal instincts and more like jock vibes.
Probably. But like a good jock. Like a smart
Isaiah has
jock.
jock vibes. Isaiah has nerd jock vibes.
He does. He's really good at cars and fixing things mechanically. He's super smart. You know, dresses well.
He's
when
like
we have the
He's
event.
like a very like physical.
Yeah.
He has like a very physical presence. I
Like
don't
a
know if that
manly
makes sense.
man. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's very masculine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he's like, but then when you talk to him, he's like soft.
And I think that's one of the things I really love about him. Yeah. He's kind of chill with everybody, checks the vibe, and he's like, all right, you know, whatever. I have seen him be like bro man a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When we went out to dinner that one time, I really liked him.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
I was like, did you guys talk about anime or anything? And he was like, no. And I was like, well, you should have. They have all these things in common,
Yeah.
and they just dance around the edge.
but you have to
of
it has
everything
to
they
be
have in
presented
common.
in front of them. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We should have a total.
Oh, Isaiah, this is Elliot. Elliot, this is Isaiah. You guys both like
The
this list
same
of things.
thing.
Here are your topics.
Uh-huh.
Start talking.
I told him that Elliot makes keyboards and stuff, and I was like, word, that's so cool. And that was it.
They'll figure it out.
It's okay. Whatever.
They'll figure it out.
We're friends.
We just need to have dinner like a couple more times.
Anyway.
Wrap it up. Put a bow on it.
As
This
neatly as we
episode's
can.
over.
Yeah.
I'm Emily.
I'm Candace. This
This was open for discussion.
it's still open.
It's still very much open.
But
We'll put a question down there.
on your thoughts, feels, and all the things about AI
Yeah,
and
tell us what you
technology.
think about AI.
Tell us all.
Love to hear it. It's our Roman Empire.
One of.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.
See you next time.